Recognizing good and evil in close protection, you can change pretty much everything about yourself. You can change the way you dress, the way you style your hair. You can even put makeup on, you can shave your beard. Whatever you want to change, you can. But it's very difficult to change the way you move. So people with evil intention move differently from people with good intentions. And so today I'm talking to Sandra, and we try to figure out how we can use the theoretical approach that we discussed in the last podcast, how we can put it into practice for close protection officers. So, hello Sandra. I think we skipped the introduction because you have already been on 2 different podcasts. So whoever wants to learn more about you can watch these 2 episodes. But welcome back, I would say.
Thank you, Inga. It's always nice to be with you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, great. So our main question basically is, how can we apply your studies, like movement studies, into the real world, in the close protection world? So first of all, what are the advantages of the work that you are doing, so movement analysis?
Yeah, well, the advantage is that you learn how to, first of all, make a difference between scanning, spotting, detecting, identifying, noticing, sensing, and perceiving. You learn the basics about differentiating between these different things and understanding the applications when you use them. Besides the effect that you, of course, learn about how perception works, generally all the basic concepts in psychology and physiology that go with it, and understand, perception from the base up, from the ground up, in order to then apply it in the practice that you want to bring it to.
Thank you very much for getting into the topic, because after the last podcast, which is out now, I already get the question like, the theory is nice, but how can I use it as a close protection officer in my day-to-day business? So you already said a little bit about it. Maybe that we now make a little bit the difference between what is the difference between an analyze that you do and, let's say, situation awareness that we practice in our everyday work.
Yes, that's a very good point. So the main difference between the work that I do and people that work with boots on the ground is the fact that I have time to do analysis. So the main factors that influence of how fast and how well we can observe, besides how complex the scenario is, how good the lighting is in the spot, what the situation generally is, how I'm feeling on the day, and besides all the fact that's going on, besides that, is time. So how much time do I even have to observe certain things? And in my case, I'm doing structured analysis, which means a question of research and a question of direction of how I'm going to analyze this material is going to be defined. Then I'm going to pick the parameters out of my toolbox that I need in order to actually do it. So I use specific things for very specific cases, not all on everything. And then I usually define a time of how much in depth I will go with the material and the analysis. And of course, I have video material, which is convenient because I can go back and forth looking at the details in as much slow motion as I need or want, or even speeding it up as much as I just as important, speeding it up as much as I need. And then making conclusions on the research question that was defined before. And with people that work with boots on the ground, they usually have assigned certain areas that they have to attend to. They have an assigned workspace that they need to work within, covering different tasks, not only observation. And they move as they go, which makes things complicated because you need to adjust your perception to that. And it means kind of staying alert based on team effort and is a completely different task than to what I do when I do video analysis.
Okay, yeah, I think you summed up the main difference. Yeah, because we're also talking about, yeah, we're doing analysis on the run, but I think that's not really possible. Like you're saying, it's a structured approach that takes a lot of time. So what we do when we're situational aware, or if we look around, we're not directly analyzing, even though, of course, we're using the word analyzing, but it's not a real analysis in terms of science, right?
Yeah, that's very true. And also, how can I say, let's just imagine a situation to make it more tangible, maybe. Let's say, you have a typical formation, let's say, with a principal, 4 people in a team or 6 people in a team, 2's in cars and 4 working with a client, for example. Then they try to cover 360. They try to close the gaps. They try to move fast from A to B, because, as we know, the transition from the building to the car is the most, besides other factors, of course, but one of the hotspots of attention. And so, you need to observe while you're moving. And I think this is one of the challenges. While you're guiding another person physically with your own presence and your own body, kind of, having some sort of a pavement that must be not even, for example. And as you're moving yourself, you are observing, which makes it probably a little bit challenging. And then, guiding the person to step into a car and everything. So there's multiple processes going on that you need to be very familiar with the technicality of actually doing this task. And on top of that, you need to have time to observe, which you actually do not really have. So everything else needs to be running subconsciously and almost perfectly to have time to observe well.
Okay, yeah, there comes the time factor again.
Yeah.
And I like the word that you're using, observing. I think that's how we can make the difference between analyzing, which is more the theoretical part in the office, and observing, which is the practical part that we are doing with our boots on the ground. And what problems do you see, or which mistakes do you see close protection teams doing when they are observing on the ground?
Before I answer this question, I have to tell people that I'm trained as a protection officer. People don't know that. And I have been training among teams from different perspectives. So being part of the team, being an advisor outside of the team, being part of the psychological team, assessing them. So I just want to point this out first. And I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people unfortunately bring is that they rely on the habits and skills that they brought to the actual protection task. So they know they can handle their weapon well, they know they can, run well. So they rely on the skills that they bring, and they rely on everything that they've learned in former jobs, like being in the military and being a police officer. And they have a hard time adjusting their observation skills to the actual task of protection. I think this is one of the most important things. That's one. The other thing is that they also, if they are comfortable in the team, I do think that they rely too much on their teammates for certain things. So staying alert, like playing your part to the fullest and not relying too much on the team, can be crucial. It can make this split second of a difference that you stayed alert and did not, go into kind of just being present mode. And probably the last thing that I see is that only very, very experienced, and I'm going to say probably older officers, can immediately acknowledge the necessity to train the ability of observation. They know and can describe all sorts of situations where this element was crucial. And it's unfortunate that the younger generation sometimes needs to learn the hard way of going through a failure, which of course is part of a learning process, but going through failure because in that case, of course, as we've seen just now recently, the split second make all the difference, and there's just so much you can do. And yeah, so I think these are the three main points that are very relevant.
Okay. Yeah, I think what you're saying there with the senior and the junior officer, that comes to play this, how much do I know? So the old senior maybe knows that he doesn't know everything, and someone who comes in young is perfectly trained, thinks he knows everything, even though he might not know everything. So yeah, I think also knowing that you can't observe everything, that you can't know everything, and that you might be trained for the situation, but that there could be anything coming in, like stress or something that has or causes any problems within the team or with the client or whatever. So yeah, of course, that could happen. Yeah.
Exactly. And also just linking into what you just said, the situation or the, I'm going to say, stress level that the client in sometimes kind of can, not always, of course, but can translate onto the team, or one member of the team. Just one member is enough to kind of make things go sideways. And, we don't want to think of the worst case scenario all the time, but I'm sure you would agree that we aim for kind of molding a team or building a team that we can really trust with our lives. So you want things to work, and you cannot have one that is always late. Or one that is just not ready to or is just having this delay in reacting or responding on the speak, and all these kind of small things. And so, yeah, it's a challenging thing, and it takes a very, I'm going to say, interested, curious mind to stay in the game and stay in the mindset of learning.
Yes, no, I 100% agree with you. And talking about learning, how can we train maybe situational awareness, but also how can I recognize patterns of people who are up to something evil, for example?
Exactly. Well, one leads into the other. If I know my the area of where I'm usually moving, how I move in this area, what schedules I'm running on, what the street usually looks like in the morning versus in the evening, how weather influences this, which neighbors do I know, which cars do I know. Everything that goes into, I'm going to say, basic surveillance training and counter surveillance training would apply here. Yeah. So I am looking for the outliers. I'm looking for the mismatch. I'm looking for the things that are kind of extra out of the ordinary. And I would also say, looking for the exact opposite, because we know, if it's a very, I'm going to say, very well and dedicated operator, he might be there for months, and even move in, into areas of interest. So, also the other thing, so assess the people that are around you all the time, assess the behavior of not only the behavior, but also the conversations that you have with people around you, that also links into it. So that is one thing. And then I'm going to say situational awareness and being able to detect the outliers or things that kind of call your attention, then lead into, I'm going to say, operational awareness, which then means, okay, what does that mean for my team, for me, for the principal, for the detail that we're actually running? How do I need to adjust, routes? How does it feed into the risk analysis and all that? So this translate into the next steps of action that I am used to doing and I'm trained to do. So being, I'm going to say, clear and quick to make teammate decisions on that is very crucial. So not spending too much time kind of questioning, no, but bringing everything to attention and discussing it and then making the next decision. I think this is also a key, not waiting for something to happen, of course, but being ahead of the curve. Of course, this is what we want.
Yeah, I think this is what you're saying is very crucial, to not only be situational aware, but also to have like action ons, like, okay, I'm detecting something, what do we do now? Because I feel like you always make the first step, you always observe, and then suddenly you have a situation where like, okay, this is weird, but what are we doing? So like you're saying, you also need to train not only how do I detect someone, also what are we doing after we detected
Exactly.
someone. So
And another point I'd like to raise is the following. I don't know if this is the same for you, but for me, if I'm going into a specific training or in a specific workspace, I put on a specific kind of mindset, and just putting on the gear. It's like when you go to a dojo, right? You put on the gi, you get into the mindset. I'm going to say this part of the job is probably more crucial to people than what they're actually aware of. So getting into the, I'm going to call it zone of being ready. It's not, I'm not saying they're not ready early. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying making it part of the routine to kind of go into this tunnel of now being really prepared. And I'm sure people can relate to that. They might not practice it as a ritual, but I would say that this is a very good moment to also include perceptive, I'm going to say, perception habits into this. So, you know, if with my students, I sometimes do this simple task that are telling me, okay, look at the palm of your hand, and then look at the wall, and then look at the palm of your hand, and then look at something else, look at your, you know, the partner that's sitting next to you, your colleague, and then look at the palm of your hands, and just realize how long your lens needs in order to actually get to sharp. So this means you're actually not seeing nothing when you're scanning, like seeing. You do not see nothing. You only see, unfortunately, if you moved and you stopped. And sometimes we don't have time to stop. It means all the other senses that you could instrumentalize in order to actually perceive need to be on before the eyes kind of, you know, direct themselves to, oh, something's moving here, something's awkward here, there is an explosion there. So this comes with, I'm going to say, this kind of alertness that your body gets when you have that cold shower, right? What is typical in Asian training, right? In this kind of kung fu training and stuff, they have the cold shower in order to bring the skin alive, to make the skin alive even more than your usual, to really, you know, feel the change of atmosphere, you know, through the skin.
yeah. No, I think I do agree that a lot of people have habits, even though maybe they might not know it. But every police officer, for example, we get on our uniform, right?
Yes.
That's kind of like getting into the work environment, I would say. And I think that every close protection officer is doing the same, conscious or unconscious. That we kind of get into a certain routine. I know, like checking the car, for example. Normally the driver does it, but I tend to do it with the driver to know, okay, I'm working now, I'm getting, you know, the eye for the detail maybe that I'm checking together. Do I see something on the car? And if I have this eye for detail, like you're saying, I'm putting the right lens on, I might have the same, or I hope that I have the same mindset outside as well, that I know, okay, we're starting working now. Let's get it going.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Every human is different, but is there like a certain pattern that humans have when they are up to something evil or when they are about to attack?
Yes. Well, you know, of course, any kind of knowledge that we have comes from analysis that we've done after the fact, right? So assessment of videos or of incidents have kind of informed us now of what typical patterns might be. However, just like you say, there are very individual elements to it. And I shall immediately add, it really also depends on how good a person is at what they're actually doing. So how good is the person in handling a weapon? How good is the person in managing stress? How good is the person in, camouflaging their ideas and their intention, and then their intent or intentions. So, of course, one element that can be pretty easy to spot is fixation. What we notice, of course, is that people tend to stare at their target There's a lot of video footage out there from very famous incidents where you can see very clearly that in a crowd where people are kind of trying to get an autograph and trying to get a picture, there's kind of this one guy or one person, that doesn't need to be a guy, a woman, staring at the target really closely. And so this is one thing that we notice. The other thing, of course, is that if I want to attack, if I need to attack, I need to come in some sort of a proximity. Of course, not if I'm handling a rifle and I'm 200, meters away. That's a whole different story. But I need, even that is proximity. It's just according to the weapon that I mean to use, right? The proximity can be assessed and also noticeable. Think of airport security, for example. Of course, I'm going to say the untrained offender does have an issue with stress, so they will show some sort of physical things that we can detect from outside, like the sweating and the nervousness, the fidgeting, kind of looking around, looking at the target, looking away, trying to act not suspicious would actually make them very suspicious. And of course, also one thing that people mention is that, they look for their companions. Usually people or hardly ever work alone, so they will look to find confirming kind of or exchange confirming looks with their companions, for example. But I guess it all depends on how well a person is trained. And I'm also going to say of how determined they are not to be detected. So if I want to change my appearance, if I want to make myself kind of be lost in a crowd and camouflage myself into a crowd, definitely I will. And then it's up to the close protection officer to still spot the subtle differences that kind of make this person still stand out.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. That and it's also what we're learning in training, right? To not have people coming too close to the principal. And I think the thing with the staring is also very important. And I feel like if you're watched, you kind of have this feeling that you're watched. Mm-hmm. It's very, very strange because it's just a look at no one's touching you. But I feel like if someone is staring at you, you get a feeling for it, and then you can look around and see, okay, who actually is staring at me. So I think these are two very good tips.
Yes.
Okay. We already said that there's like this structured approach that you are having from like the office and what we are doing on the ground, and that's a little bit different. But what would you say to someone who is either new in the security industry and wants to become a close protection officer, or is an experienced close protection officer and likes to get a little bit more hands-on with all of this movement analysis? What would you say is the best to learn about it?
The beginner really has to start from understanding concepts of perception and the psychophysiological impact you as a person have on the whole observation process. I think this is crucial to really understand that you actually do not see much. And of the things that you see or think you see, you kind of make up a whole bunch of this picture, of this image that you think that you're seeing. And this is all you. So, being aware of the biases, learning how they influence perception and all that is one thing. The other thing is becoming kind of aware of how stress affects perception. So how this whole tunnel vision, the concept of tunnel vision, or the inability to leave this the tunnel vision affects your ability to act and move, and learn that through scenario-based training and all that, to then go consciously through your world, not only the professional, but also general world, and train your lens the way you need to train it. So if you know that you tend to stare at colors more, like even more than the average person, if you know that you're, for example, you're drawn to blondes rather than brunettes, right? If you know that, you need to be able, if you want to work in the force, to step out of that pattern in order to remain active. For the experienced officer, I think, just like we said earlier, one crucial element that hardly anybody really likes to hear is the fact that we will have situations where we will learn that we didn't know, we didn't see, we didn't perceive, we didn't notice, and you don't want to go there. So the mindset of being ready to learn and stay curious is key. Also, allowing this curiosity to see, curiosity to look at things from another perspective, curiosity to listen to what your teammates saw that you didn't, or noticed that you didn't, and you think you want to say, yeah, that's not important. Just like we said last time, look twice, think about it for a second, give it a little bit of room, and then stay curious, but in a positive way. Don't make it a thing that becomes an argument, a discussion. I see, you see, we see. No, take it into the bowl, shake it around, discuss it, and then come to a decision, a team-based decision. I think this is really crucial. And also, I mean, for everyone, it really is also the fact that we do not see everything, and that we will be surprised. There will be the surprise waiting for you. And then on a different note, the question is, how quick are you to integrate this failure into your new skill set? I mean, this is also very crucial. You will fail, you will be part of that club. And how quickly do you use that, add it to your resilience box and move on forward and add it to your skill box? This is also very crucial, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to end with, I would say, that you can't see everything, even though you're very experienced. It's just how we are, right? We're humans, we can't detect everything all the time. So for that, I have another anecdote from my close protection training. I've been to Ronan in South Africa, and there we had like a license plate scanner in the back of our car. So of course we also had someone looking out of the rear window all the time and observing, and he should have noticed if a car is longer behind us than usual, or if we see a car multiple times. And then we compared what we wrote down with the license plate scanner. And there was this one, I think it was just a random lady. She had nothing to do with us. She was not a threat or something. But for some reason, she was 2-3 times where we have been. So we drove through some shopping malls, and this lady obviously was doing the same, just driving through the popular shopping malls in Cape Town. And we didn't notice, this license plate scanner said boom, 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 five times this license plate, and we didn't wrote it down once. So I think that's quite a good learning, or was a good learning for me, that even though I was observing, or we as a team have been observing all the time, there might be some things. Of course, she was not suspicious, she had nothing to do with us, but we could have noticed that this car was behind us like 5 times, but we didn't. So you can't see everything. Yes, absolutely. Okay, then thank you very much again, the 3rd time. And I'm pretty sure that we stay in contact, that you hear more from us in the future, because I think it's a very, very interesting topic. It's very nice to talk about it. So maybe to everyone who has not seen the last 2 podcasts, where can we find you? Do you have a website or LinkedIn?
Yes, of course. You can find me on LinkedIn. I think this is the easiest and quickest way. I also have a website. It's called Apollo Synergetics. Apollo, of course, the god of the arts, needs to be involved. So yes, find me there. And otherwise, I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch.
Okay, perfect. Then thank you very much, and see you next time.
Yes.
Bye-bye.